Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Women in Tech webinar. Actually, it's not really a webinar, it's a panel discussion. Webinars are boring, right? So we're here to talk about lots of cool stuff about certifications and how they can help your career. But before we get to all of that, I first of all should introduce myself. I'm Stephanie Boozer with CUGC HQ. If you've been on any of our webinars, I know you've seen me before. So hello to everyone who's returning. So like I said, we're here with EG Innovations, who is a sponsor of our CUGC Women in Tech mentoring program. And we are so happy to have their support and have them, give us lots of great content like this, where we have this platform to discuss lots of great questions. So before I jump in and introduce everyone else, I just want to remind you that we do have a lot of virtual events going on. And tomorrow is our Southeast CUGC Excel event, and EG will be present at that event. So you can come back and stop by their booth and say hi. And I think you guys are also at our EMEA Excel in October. So definitely check those out. They're both virtual events. Anybody's welcome. Lots of great content and everything's free. So check those out. And there is a screen. You can screenshot this picture, but I'll put a link in the chat in a little bit to our events calendar. All right, so moving on, we are recording today's session. You'll get a link to that recording. I'll send it to you through GoToWebinar, so be on the lookout for that. Also, we do want you to ask questions as you have them. We do have some questions that Wendy is going to ask our panelists, but we also want to take your questions because we know you probably have plenty. So definitely type those in, and we have a surprise guest keeping an eye on the questions for us. And finally, I will have a short survey for you. It's anonymous and for CUGC use only, so I hope that you'll fill it out. Alrighty, just a little brief overview about our Women in Tech program. It was started about 5 years ago from this 3 women CTPs, and they got together and came to us at CUGC and really wanted to put together a program that provided a mentoring component and just overall, content and help for other women in IT. And it's been a really great program. It's been a lot of fun and it's been super helpful. We've had several mentee-mentor relationships each year. We start a new class and they just basically outline their goals, and they can be technical goals, professional development goals, but they outline those, and the mentor helps them, take the steps they need to accomplish those. And then we also just have other content along the way, things like this, webinars like this. So we're really grateful to have the program, and we're really grateful to have the support of the program, and I want to thank EG again for being a sponsor and helping us make all these partnerships happen. And if you're interested, or if you know someone who might be, the application window is open right now for the class of 2021-22. So we'll be taking all those applications and, trying to pair people with all of our great mentors. And we have a lot of them. So definitely pass the word along. All right, I have done a lot of talking and I'm about to hand things over. So with us today, we have Wendy Howard from EG. Hi, Wendy. And also on our panel, we have Danielle Castelli, we have Jen Sheerin, and we have René Reighard. All of these women are here to talk to you today about certifications, and our surprise mystery question moderator is Esther Barthel. She's one of the founding members of the CUGC Women in Tech. So hello, everyone. There she is. Hello, everyone. All right, so Wendy, I think I'm going to hand everything over to you now. I'm going to give you the screen. It's coming your way. All right. There you go. And I'm going to disappear for a little bit, but I'll be back.
All right. Thanks for that intro, and welcome everybody to the panel on certifications in your career, and this will be good for anybody that is in basically IT, whether you have a job or not, because certifications can help even to get new jobs. So let me go around the room and introduce everybody thoroughly. We have Sheerin, who is an Azure Fast Track engineer. She's a VDI specialist with over a decade of experience, and she has experience in the Azure Virtual Desktop, Citrix Digital Workspace, and networking. She's a CTP, a Women in Tech mentor, and the CUGC Tampa Bay User Group co-leader. She's passionate about technology, learning, and sharing with the community. Hi, Jen, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Next, we have René. René Reighard and I used to work together back in the day at a hospital here in Oregon. And I brought her in today to talk about all things good and bad with certifications. She's an experienced senior systems architect and engineer with a wide range of skill sets, including Citrix Cloud, Citrix virtual apps and desktops, NetScaler, Microsoft, VMware, you name it. And she is the founder, owner of Ponytail Technology. Hi, René. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Wendy. Glad to be here.
Next, we have Danielle. She is the Director of Exam Development at CompTIA and oversees the development of CompTIA's 14 different certifications. She's been doing this for 11 years, or been in exam development for 11 years, both in medical and IT certification. Hi, Danielle. Thanks for coming.
Hi, Wendy. Thanks for having me.
Jen, before we get started with my fun little slides, can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing in your current job role in Microsoft?
Sure. So today I work for the Azure infrastructure team in the Americas, which is the fast track team. And we basically do complimentary services for our customers with guidance, so with no hands-on keyboard or mouse, but it's walkthroughs, educational, and consulting services in that manner.
Great. That sounds pretty awesome. René, right now you're with Ponytail Tech, and what is it that you currently do as a consultant?
Mainly Citrix, all Citrix work. The majority would be migrations to Citrix Cloud and, easing, adding new use cases into an environment, or architecting a new environment, DR planning. That's
upgrades.
All
Yeah.
Citrix.
Yep, all things Citrix. And Danielle from CompTIA, what is it that you're working on these days over there?
Yeah, so as mentioned, I lead the department that develops our certifications at CompTIA. We're always really busy. Most of our certs get reversioned with updated content every 3 years, so we're always working on that. And then we have our newest certification, which is going to be coming out next year for data analytics, called Data Plus. So we've been working really hard on that this year to get that live launch going at the beginning of next year.
Awesome. That's cool. So this is our panel, and like we showed before, Esther will be helping with Q&A. So if you have any questions for individuals, any of us, please put them in the Q&A window, and we'll get them answered for you anytime. I'm Wendy Howard. I work for EG Innovations. I've been with this company for 4 years as a pre-sales engineer. And before that, I was a Citrix administrator at a hospital here in Central Oregon. Not very glamorous, but that's where I did meet René, so some good things came out of it, right? And we'll go into a little bit more of my certification background and everybody else here in a few minutes. What I'm going to do now is our product overview. And then after that, we'll get to drilling those candidates and really getting into the meat of the conversation about certifications. So if you take a look at my screen, here's a little bit about EG Innovations. We are a global company. We have a world headquarters in Singapore and then US headquarters in New Jersey, over 1,000 customers across the world. And what EG does is provides digital experience monitoring for Citrix and lots of other technologies. And customers will come to us when they have slowness, when, because slow is a new outage or downtime, and we help them to improve their performance and monitor their environment. So some of the people that come to us have Citrix, right? But there are other use cases that we're able to monitor from end to end, including Office 365, application monitoring, and any kind of virtual monitoring like the VMware layers, Zen server, things. So we're the single pane of glass visibility. We combine APM with IPM so that you don't have to deal with tool sprawl. So EG and Citrix have a really good relationship. When I started at EG, they put me on a project to help Citrix monitor their Synergy and Summit events. So I would go and meet up with Ed, who at the time was in technical marketing, and then we'd help them set up the monitoring for all their systems at the event. And then I'd go to the event and hang out with him and make sure everything was looking good. And basically, after a few years of doing that, they decided to take EG into all of their technical business centers where they're monitoring their infrastructure for those. So this is a bigger project now. I completed that implementation, and now it's they use us. We monitor from end to end their Citrix Core, Citrix Cloud, and virtual layers. So what we do is we provide all of your Citrix metrics on one screen, user session data and performance and experience in one dashboard, which if you'd like to see some more, please reach out to us. I could give you a demo and show you all of the fun details and cool dashboards that we provide to help you save time if you're a Citrix admin, and just save your energy with performance in the end. Here we are, Citrix ready. All right, before we open up to panelists, we do have a poll for everybody. Jenny, you want to throw, oh, not Jenny, Stephanie, you want to throw a poll out?
There you go. I'll give you guys just a few seconds. Interesting spread popping up here of who has what. All right, I'll close it out and I'll share the results, Wendy.
Okay.
Look, a good portion have from 1 to 5. All right. Do you want to run the second one?
Let's wait a few minutes.
Got it.
Yeah. Let's get some discussion going, get the juices flowing. So I don't need to share my screen anymore, but I will here towards the end. How much time do we have? Like, what time do we need to wrap this up, just so I know?
Until 2 o'clock, so you got a good 40 minutes.
Right. That you're on Eastern?
Yes. Sorry.
We're all across the globe here. Not the globe, but the US. All right. Okay, let's get started with some panel questions. And, you know, as some of you guys know, we did have this same panel earlier this year in January, but we loved it so much we wanted to do it again. And Jen was the original, she's the OG panelist from that first session we had. And let's start with her. So since you were on the first panel, you had shared with us last time how many certifications you got last year. And then some things have changed to where you are not getting certifications. What changed for you this year since the last panel with respect to obtaining certifications, and why? What's going on with you?
Well, so since the last panel, I've only gotten one certification, right? Opposed to I think it was 5 the last year, but you know, we were in lockdown and stuff, so there was a lot of free time. This year, life happened, and I've managed to make 2 life changes at the same time. So I switched jobs. So if those of you notice, I'm now working at Microsoft, and my role doesn't require me to have certifications. So I guess I've been onboarding and doing a lot of training. So the learning hasn't stopped. And it's just that I haven't really focused on the certifications as much. The other life change that happened is I moved to a new city. And that was related to my son going to college. So maybe those are 3 life changes. I'm not sure if that's 2 or 3, but yeah. So I've been trying to manage the work-life balance, and so the certifications have taken a little step back.
I totally get it. Lots of free time last year, that's for sure. Well, you know, it should be about lifelong learning, right? That's what's important in the end. We don't just get into this field and go, well, I made it, I'm done, I'm just gonna cruise along. A lot of us like the challenge of getting a certification or learning a new technology, and sometimes they go hand in hand. So
Absolutely.
So how long have you been at Microsoft, Jenny?
4 months now. So there will be more certifications coming. It's just that I've been learning a lot of other new cool stuff.
Of course. Yep. Got to get up to speed. All right. So the other, I guess, admin or engineer is René. And René has been in the CUGC WIT mentoring program for a while, since what, a couple years now?
I was actually one of the original 3 mentees.
Mentees. So you were mentored.
Yep.
By somebody, and then you turn around and became a mentor. Okay.
That's correct.
So in your time with the program, how many sessions have you been a mentor for?
I mean, I think we're at 5 years now. I guess Stephanie or Jen, I can't remember for sure, but yeah. So I think there's 5 that I've mentored.
Okay. That's pretty awesome. That's extensive. And during that time, have you ever mentored anybody and guided them towards getting a certification? How did that go for you? What'd you do?
It has been a goal. I think the best way to help someone prepare if these individuals had not had taken any tests at all, so just kind of letting them know, like on the site, what to expect when you go into a test. Sometimes, you know, your comfort level of what the questions, are they going to be multiple choice? Are you going to be required to do certain action? Trying to, you know, look at what tests they're taking and looking at those details. And then a lot of the time, there's, like with Citrix, for example, there's a lot of specific content that they say they're going to go over, and helpful links to documentation. And so I kind of guide them to where some training, if these mentees didn't have funds to take a class, which is always helpful to take the class, because there can be questions specific to classroom materials. But if you use the product a lot, you'll do fine. But that's how I was able to guide them.
All right, using the product or using the technology, yeah, that's pretty important when trying to get a certification, for sure.
Absolutely.
Let's go to Danielle and get a little introduction from Danielle. What's your background and why are certifications important to you? Did you get into this field?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think anybody, there's not a major or you can go to school for certification development. So people do come from different backgrounds. A lot of people on our team have a teaching background, which makes sense because we facilitate development workshops. My background is in education, is in biology and writing or journalism. So when I first started out, I was doing freelance writing for some science publications. Actually, one of my first jobs was in was for a website that it was called Under the Microscope at the time, but it was for women in STEM and wrote stories that kind of related to those topics. I made my way into medical certification. I was an editor for a while at the American Board of Psychiatry and Neurology, but there are a lot of medical certification boards out there, and that was when I started to get interested in more of the development and the psychometric side of certification. So how are they developed, and what are you looking at behind validating them statistically? I love numbers and stats and all that stuff, so I got very interested in that. And then my next move in my career was to come over to CompTIA as a manager of exam development, and been here for 7 years, and now I direct that department. So my interests lay in both the content development and also the statistical validation side. So that was sort of a bit of a windy path to certification development.
That's really cool. It is fascinating, though, to see how a certification is created. I can't divulge much, but I'm going to say this. I've worked with Danielle because I got accepted as a CompTIA subject matter expert. I'm going to refer Jenny. I'm sending Jenny a referral to be a SME and help develop more certifications with CompTIA. So the way it works, CompTIA reaches out to the industry to look for people like us, me, Jenny, Renee, Esther, to spend a little bit of time with them. And it's usually a week at a time, a chunk of time, 8 hours, 7 hours a day for a week out of the year, to work with CompTIA's exam developers, Danielle's team. And then we all get together and write the questions, we edit the questions, and we get them off for publishing. So that's the beauty of developing an exam. It's not done by a bunch of people in a basement. It's done by all of us in the industry coming together and bringing our experience. So Danielle, do you want to expand on anything about that process?
Sure. Yeah, no, that was great. Yeah, we really depend on people that are in the field to provide that expertise so that we can combine it with our knowledge of actually doing the development piece. we want to know, what do people in these job roles need to know? What do they need to be able to do in order to do their job successfully? And how do we validate that accurately? And a big part of that is developing the content in the way that Wendy described, but we also have subject matter experts come in and help us develop the learning objectives that you'll see on our website. That's what the certification is then mapped to. So that's the initial phase where people come in and say, yeah, here's what's going out out in the field. Here's what people need to know. And as most of you or some of you may know, CompTIA is not a vendor specific certification. So we want to know what's the common denominator out there? Where you're from, who you are, what kind of company you work for, what are the common things that you'll need to know and the skill sets you'll need to have. And in order to learn that, we need subject matter experts. And we are always looking for more women subject matter experts. So Jen would love if you joined us, but yeah, we're always trying to bring more women into our process so that we can make sure that that side of things is represented as well.
Yeah, we definitely need to represent. I've been in the room, and the only other women have been your team, Danielle.
That does happen sometimes, less and less as time goes on, but it's something that's really important to me and our team. So yeah, I just wanted to put that out.
All right, so if anybody wants to be a subject matter expert, please let me know. I'll help you because I get a little referral perk. Hey, Esther.
And so does the person you refer. So.
And so does that, yeah.
Yeah.
What's up, Esther?
I figured this was a nice way to let you all visually know that there are some questions that are right on top or right on point in regards to the discussion that is started. So the first question, or basically comment, is how do you deal when with getting that certifications, prepping for the exams, if you are not fortunate enough to have a home lab? Are there any tips that you can share, or can you share if having a home lab and that hands-on experience helped you prepare for the exams, or maybe even created more success in passing the exams?
I'll take it.
Jen?
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. So the hands-on lab, or the hands-on, is always beneficial. That's firstly. Some vendors will have a simulation in their training classes and you can leverage that. So for example, Microsoft Learn has the simulation, so you don't need anything. It's just a sandbox, and you can go through all of those modules and not need a lab. I know some of the other cloud vendors have a similar, setup. If for the other situation where you don't have a lab, I think this is where mentoring really comes into play. You have to kind of phone a friend, leverage. There's a lot of folks out there that are willing to help if you just ask. So don't be shy to just reach out and ask. I've had people pop up on LinkedIn or DM me on Twitter and ask for help, and always I've done the same. Everyone's always happy to help.
Yeah, I know with the Women in Tech mentorship program, we are even getting questions from also the males, our male allies, so to speak, that want to offer lab time to our mentees. So I think nowadays with a lot of online opportunities, there definitely are new opportunities to overcome not having your own home lab. Another question is, and perhaps that's one that you can answer, Danielle, is that, well, the question basically is, how much should I budget for getting my certifications? And are there perhaps special fees in case that I'm not on a very large budget?
Yeah, so I really can't give a number on that, but I can tell you that there's a lot of different ways that you can prepare for certifications. Obviously, CompTIA has training programs, and you can find those costs on our site. I think there's also financial assistance available. We have a CompTIA Tech Career Academy that does offer financial assistance, and you can check that out as well. Our objectives that we put together in what we were talking about earlier in that process, they're based on a job role. So I think to what Jen was saying is also that real life experience and just communicating with, networking with, talking to people who are in those job roles, you know, should prepare you as well, that hands-on experience. That is really what we base our exams on, is whether or not you're in school studying specifically in an academic setting, what do you need to know hands-on from being on the job? So it really depends on what route you're taking, but certainly those information on those programs are available on our site. And if you have a specific question, you can feel free to reach out to me as well.
Okay, well, thanks for that answer. Back to you, Wendy, and I'm going to monitor the next set of questions.
Right. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I think now's a really good time to bring up money. And I don't know if my screen was showing. Let me see. Yeah, it was showing with the certification prices. Okay. So is it back on the screen now? Okay. So what we're looking at here is the top certifications. And this is like an average of a survey of how much people are getting paid if they hold that certification. It doesn't say what their job role is in reality, but that's the exact name of the cert. And then what I did was I went and researched how much each cert is. So I'm going to go through that right now. If you look at the screen, the very first one is the exam itself costs $200. Okay, so this is just the exam and not any sort of supplemental cost or class costs that may go with it or be required, right? So I can go onto Google and register to take an exam, and it said $200. I created an account and everything, 200, and then we get to AWS, which is 150, and then we get to these risk and information systems, which are really up there, around 700, 600. PMP, most people know that that is very involved, and it's not just about money. You actually have to create entire projects and justify them and show them off. Nutanix, 199. Another information systems is expensive. It's the same cert group. And I just expensive because it's all relative. VMware is 250. Microsoft Windows Server, 165. Azure, 165. Cisco, 400. Citrix. So a lot of us, I guess me, Jen, and Renee have all gotten this particular cert, Citrix Certified Associate. This is the first level in Citrix certification. That's 200. And then the Security Plus, anything with a plus on it like that is going to be from CompTIA. And Security Plus is 370. So A Plus, Network Plus, Server Plus, Security Plus, those are all within CompTIA's realm. So seeing this now, what is, you know, what is worth it, and what is reality? I got a question for Renee. What do you see here that could put up a red flag that you know and have experienced in your career?
Sure. I would call out there are some tests that you cannot even register for unless you've taken the class, VMware. So when, like with Esther's question, when they were asking about costs, this doesn't tell the whole story. Also, there's different levels, like for the Citrix as a certified associate, that's the first level. So there's lots of different levels to go, which each time is 200. And then to maintain that certification, I think it's every 3 years, you have to retake a test as well. So those would be, before you dive into this, if it's a personal choice, you know, those are some hidden costs. If your employer's requiring it, or you work for a bar and they're requiring it, there's, you know, some of those are offset and assumed, and they know what they're getting into.
Okay, so like Danielle, let's say there's somebody that collects certifications and they've gotten all of the CompTIA certs and they're all going to expire at some point. What is something they can do to kind of minimize the cost of keeping all of their certs up to date? And what do they do after getting all the certs? What's next?
Yeah, so even if you don't have all the certs, but you're, you know, kind of following a certain career path, but if you are in that position where you have all the certs as well, I think the idea behind having a new certification or a new version of that certification come out every 3 years is obviously in technology and other fields as well. We need to keep up with the new skills that are required. So CompTIA and I think other certification bodies as well offer CEU credits in place of retaking it. So you don't necessarily, unless you want to, need to retake that certification, pay for it every 3 years. What instead in the CEU route you can do is earn continuing education credits, similar to what a lot of people do through their employers, which is basically the idea here is to show that you're keeping up with the technology of the times and changes that have happened throughout the past 3 years. And you know, there's a whole program mapped out for each of our certifications on a lot of different types of things that can fall into those categories of continuing education. But that's certainly hopefully something you would be doing anyway as you went throughout your career, and you can apply that toward renewing your certification as opposed to just sitting for the test again.
Yeah, I mean, nobody wants to go retake 4 different tests every few years. It can be tedious, it can be costly, and you know, I would just say become a SME, because then you're basically writing the test and you don't have to take it anymore. Although what I did was it earlier this year or last year when I did the Server Plus workshops with you guys, one of the perks is CompTIA gives the SME a free exam voucher. And sometimes I utilize that just to learn new things and take the exam to update it or put it on my resume. And this time I'm training, starting to study for the Cloud Plus, the new one that came out, the version 3. So that's exciting. And it's no cost to me because I contributed to creating a different exam. So there are ways to kind of continue that education. Like, I know you guys have advisory boards that people start going into and just becoming more and more involved with creating that industry as a whole. So.
Yeah, absolutely. What a lot of people enjoy about that process is being able to connect with other people in the industry, and just kind of comparing notes and learning new things from other people that are also working in that industry. So that's a big part of it as well.
So knowing what we know, I'm going to pose this question to everybody right now. What do you guys think are the hottest certifications to get? 2021, 2022, what's hot? What's not? Even Esther can jump in on this one.
Cloud and security.
Cloud and security.
I agree with that.
Where's the cloud security one? Is there a cloud security cert?
Well, I can only speak from the other side of things here at CompTIA, but I know that the cloud I'm sure you know now, Wendy, the cloud certification certainly has security woven into it. It has to at this point. And vice versa. The security certifications now, everything is so intertwined that you'll see a lot more topics coming into the security certifications. There you go.
I got my guide, and section 2 objectives is all security.
So they're really interwoven at this point. And I would also just add the data analytics piece into the mix for anyone out there who's also, I know there is overlap between data analytics and IT in some spaces, and that seems to be a field or an area that is really developing right now, and that people are interested in learning more about and getting into. And if you want a career in that field, it's probably there for you if you're willing to learn about it. So I would just add that to that list.
Awesome. Hey, Esther.
Yeah, I figured I add in 2 cents as well. So in what I'm seeing right now in the field, in addition to security and cloud and the technical certifications, is that it is a lot to take in for, well, I do not mean to degrade anything, but I now call them the traditional admins, basically the administrators that we know that have spent many years learning, building experience in on-premises environments. And now all of a sudden they find themselves being pushed towards developing or growing into a more cloud DevOps role. And what I'm seeing out in the field is that for some it is a struggle to not just get some skills into automated deployments, but to also see or enable a change in their mindset to go from products and on-premises environments to services and service-oriented work, working in agile teams. So I think it's not just about getting that certifications and getting those technical skills, but it's also a lot about understanding that you need to even more nowadays learn how to collaborate in different teams and work with well, more modern cloud-focused tooling, like for instance, what I see in automation and cloud and DevOps is like the VS Code, working with Git, but also understanding that the first steps in transitioning to cloud admin roles is to understand to communicate more in process flows or workflows. And from that starting point, you can learn and grow to translate those workflows and the tasks that you define in those workflows to transitioning to PowerShell scripting or whatever you are more comfortable in, like infra as code, or well, nowadays I guess it's anything as code, and learn things like Terraform or well, there are so many tools nowadays that I think if you want to easily transition, just start with that workflow and learn how to communicate and use that as your baseline. But that's me, and I know I'm kind of moving away from certifications.
But traditional admin is dealing with monolithic system objects, and we have to rethink. It's totally true. When I went through my AWS training for fundamentals, I didn't have a lab. I learned everything in theory, but it was doable. But it did change the way I saw everything right now. And it's a great start for anybody who wants to get in the cloud. And then I'm sure I'll say the same thing about the Cloud Plus, because that's vendor agnostic. And I'm going to learn a lot more with just studying for that exam. But hey, let me stop the answers on that question real quick, because I was wondering if we could do the fun poll. If Stephanie could do the second poll, which is just kind of for fun, and somehow show us the results.
Yeah, that gives me the opportunity to fade away in the background again.
All right, Stephanie, are you on audio?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, I'm just watching it go. At first, I thought there were a lot of people saying they've never passed or taken an exam, and I was like, that's not true because some of you have several. So here we go. Now they're starting to come in. And let's give you a couple more seconds. Looks like most people have voted, so go ahead and close that out, and I'll share.
For some reason, when you share, I don't see anything.
You can't see it. So, all right. So I can tell you. So 11% say they take the day off because they deserve it.
Oh, wait, can you repeat the question?
Oh, what do you do after passing a certification program? I don't think I should have said exam. So 11% take the day off. 22% share it with their boss and their team. 44% say they get back to work because they've got things to do. Nobody finds a new job. That's interesting. And then 22% they've never passed or taken an exam.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Thanks for putting that out there. I just really am curious because, you know, that tells me what the motivation is behind it, right? So if your motivation is to look for a different job, then by all means, work your way through that exam and then update your resume, put the badge on LinkedIn, and then start networking and telling people, hey, I want to break into this field. So that's one thing we could do after getting a cert. And then a lot of times, like Jen, it's required for your job and the company will pay for it and reimburse you, right? But it just depends on your work. If you're going to get support or sponsorship, go for it. Do all of them that you want to do. So I have a quick question for Jen, another one for René, and then we're probably going to be out of time. So Jen, would you say that your certifications helped you get into your current job role at Microsoft, and why?
I don't think so. It's a very hard question to answer. So I acquired a Microsoft certification after I got the job. I hadn't started yet. I took the test, but the results didn't come out until after. So technically, I've sort of let all my Microsoft way back when certifications lapse, you know, the NT days and all of that. And I'm starting over now because I didn't keep up with the renewals. So I really only have one Microsoft certification right now that's current, that hasn't expired. However, I will say that their certifications probably gave me the confidence that I needed to go out and apply for jobs, right? Because I felt that I could prove I had this skill set, like, you know, all the things I'm saying about myself, here's some proof. Even though they weren't Microsoft related, they were Citrix related, I still had VDI specialist somewhere in there.
Yeah, it definitely adds, right? It adds up. Some employers look for it, some don't care. And it's proof, in my opinion, it could be proof that you're able to learn new concepts quickly, able to take a test, whatever that means. And you just have the patience and tenacity to focus on something. But with that said, I mean, René, what are your thoughts on the downsides of certifications? Do you have any issues with it? Like, is it all about money? What are some of the downsides to it?
Well, I mean, outside of the costs and time and renewals, those would be the downsides. You got to think about the organization. They want to promote their product, and they don't want a diluted, what they want their cert to mean something. So they want it to be challenging, and then also, they have to show a profit for their education. I mean, that's also why they're doing it, to providing that education. So I would say that it's not always about money, and in different times in your career, you have to show something outside of someone's word. You have to have some sort of certificate, piece of paper, education. That's probably earlier in your career. So if you're new to the industry, I would encourage it, but I do think your experience does, in years of changing and learning new things all the time, does show that you can take on all the new changes that are going to happen. And I mean, I remember when I got Citrix at data center stuff, I never thought anything of it, and that's all I've done ever since. I just continue to just do Citrix. So you never know what getting into a new thing, a new education might pave the road for you down the line.
Those are the questions we need to ask ourselves, if it's worth pursuing, based on the time that you're going to spend. I give myself about a month to study, and then I have to cancel social engagements and do like I did in college and schooling, and stay home and study and allocate time for studying. But my employer right now they're all for it. They love it when we are constantly improving ourselves. Okay, question for everybody. What is a brain dump, and are they legal to use? Are they acceptable to use?
I can start, I guess. I would say no, they're not acceptable to use, at least from my point of view, because what they are essentially is, people dumping exam questions. So instead of—
And answers, the answers too.
Yes, I'm sorry, that's the most important part. And answers. And instead of learning or showing that you actually have the knowledge and skills, you're getting the certification based on the answers you saw in a brain dump, which, by the way, may or may not be correct.
What's that?
I said, by the way, may or may not be correct. Some of them.
Oh, yeah, it could be an entirely wrong answer. Yeah.
But what I always wonder about people who use brain dumps is kind of what their plan is afterwards. So let's say you use a brain dump, you don't get caught, which people do get caught, both contributing to brain dumps and using them. But then you take the exam and you pass it based on the brain dump. And what's your plan to in your job role? If you don't actually have the knowledge to pass that certification, you just passed it because of a brain dump, how are you going to succeed in that job role and grow in your career? So that's what I always wonder about people who do decide to unfortunately go that route.
I agree. I would say my favorite exam that I've taken, if there is such a thing, is it was a practicum. It was Citrix practicum, and you basically were handed a statement of work, and you had 24 hours to implement PBS, NetScaler, server and workstation OSs, and there's no way to brain dump any of that. You either know it or can do it or not. And so I just thought it was an excellent test versus the multiple choice and, drag and drop or whatever they have. So I thought that was, I've taken it twice, and they were both very good tests.
Go ahead, Jen.
I agree with what Danielle said. I mean, how do you compensate for not knowing the skill that you wanted so badly to prove that you have by taking the test.
I call it a watered
just
down
so
cert. Yeah.
Yeah, water does. There are no trick questions in CompTIA exams. I know this for a fact. They're not trying to trick you at all. There's no like, oh, it could be this or it could be that, and it's all pretty straightforward.
I would also add to, I guess, John's point too, and Renee's for those exams, like most of ours, where you are multiple choice and maybe people find you're still going to have to spend a lot of time memorizing those answers, right? So instead of using your time to do that, using it to learn the skill set, to me is a much better use of your time.
We are out of time. I do have one last slide, and it's got some valuable information for everybody on this. It's got the Citrix Champion program, the Minty application
So
link.
you're not showing your right screen, this one.
I know, but I clicked on it and it didn't give me an option.
Maybe drag it over to the water.
Oh boy. Come on, web go to.
There you go.
Fun. There's a link in here to a Google Docs to sign up for the Minty program. So I'm not sure how to get you guys this PowerPoint, but we'll figure it out. And then information on Citrix certs and the CompTIA.org website. With that, Stephanie, do we have something we need to close out with?
Yeah.
Before we say thank you and bye?
Yeah, so I just put a link in the chat to the t-shirt form. So it's everybody who attends is welcome to a t-shirt. Definitely go fill that out. And for the slides, I can get the PowerPoint from you, Wendy, and I can share that in the follow-up materials. Basically, I just want to thank you all for being with us today. I thank you, EG, again, for supporting our Women in Tech group. And thank you to all of our panelists for being here today. Lots of great Q&A going on. Appreciate you all.
Thanks, Stephanie. Thank you, CUGC, Esther, Jen, Renee, Danielle. We won't have a part 3, but we hope to sponsor again in the future, and I hope to see you guys in real life someday again.
Well, that'd be
Definitely working
nice.
on that one.
Thank you. Take care.
All right, thanks
all.
everyone. Have a great day. See you all soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.